dreams give me wings to fly high above the rain, where storms just pass me by. Dream.
Welcome to Reflections of Unity from the Writings of Baha'u'llah. I'm Joy Wazorek, your host for today's show, and our guest for this show is Barbara Winslow, who describes herself as a practical dreamer. Thank you, Barbara, for being on this show.
It's nice to be here.
Thank you. In the Baha'i writings, there are references to dreams, the significance of dreams, and the use of dreams throughout the writings. For those of you familiar with the Baha'i writings in the 7 valleys, the 6th valley is called the Valley of Wonderment, and that is the Valley of Dreams. So it is one of the steps on the spiritual journey of the soul towards reunion with God. I've just given a little bit of that story, but why is it important for Baha'is to work with or people of any faith to work with their dreams?
Well, in our holy writings and in the writings of all of the major religions, it talks about this being another world, a world beyond the physical plane. It's beyond time and it's beyond space, and it's our way, like you mentioned earlier, of our getting closer to God and connecting with our own self and where our spirit is, not just where we are on the physical plane. I'd like to quote just a portion of the tablets of Baha'u'llah, where he speaks about the importance of the world of dreams, and he talks about it as being another world. The spirit, having transcended the limitations of sleep, and having stripped itself of all earthly attachment, hath, by the act of God, been made to traverse a realm which lieth hidden in the innermost reality of this world. Verily I say, the creation of God embraces worlds besides this world, and creatures apart from these creatures. In each of these worlds he ordaineth things which none can search except himself, the all-searching, the all-wise. And then he goes on to say, do thou meditate on that which we have revealed unto thee, that thou mayest discover the purpose of God, thy Lord, and the Lord of all worlds. In these words the mysteries of divine wisdom have been treasured up. O servant, warn thou the servants of God not to reject that which they do not comprehend. Say, implore God to open to your hearts the portals of true understanding, that ye may be appraised of that which no one is appraised. Powerful stuff.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's a very powerful quote.
So that's just, one quote of an example of what this other world is about.
And so it says that that you may be apprised of worlds that no one
That's right.
is familiar with, and also gain knowledge that people do not have yet.
Yes.
Although I think I inferred that.
Yeah. Yes.
But it says in there that we should meditate upon that which we have revealed unto you, that you mayest discover the purpose of God, the Lord of all worlds.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me connotes that we're looking at our purpose as human beings.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of God is, and how do we fit into that?
Precisely.
But what does it mean by meditate? Can you?
Yeah, I'll give you some quotes from the Baha'i writings, and these are very powerful.
Okay.
And actually the first one I think is one of the most powerful, because it says, so important is the ability to meditate that you cannot apply the name man to any being void of this faculty of meditation. Without it, he would be a mere animal lower than the beasts.
So our rational faculty is what separates us from the
Precisely. And if we're not meditating and we're not connecting at the spiritual dimension, then he's essentially saying, from my understanding, is we're no different than an animal who doesn't have the soul or this capacity to do so.
So development of the rational faculty really happens through meditation.
Evidently. And
Okay.
let me read you a couple of the other quotes on meditation, and I think it explains this very well. Through the faculty of meditation, man attains to eternal life. Through it, he receives the breath of the Holy Spirit. The bestowal of the Spirit is given in reflection and meditation. The spirit of man is itself informed and strengthened during meditation. Through it, affairs of which man knew nothing are unfolded before his view. Through it, he receives divine inspiration. Through it, he receives heavenly food.
So meditation is very important as a prerequisite. It's a prerequisite for dreaming, but it actually is the basis of our spiritual life.
Evidently, it is the basis of our spiritual life, because that's how we connect to the divine and to our higher self.
Okay, and how do we meditate, or how do Baha'is meditate? Is there?
There's no set way. There's a book, a compilation of ways to meditate in the Baha'i writings, but in it, the first few paragraphs explain that you can meditate in any way you see fit, that you can take in other religious traditions and meditate. But it also goes on to say that the best form of meditation from a Baha'i perspective is to meditate on the holy writings. So to just take a verse or a line or something and just say the verse maybe over in your mind, and then just, if you don't understand it, just think about it, and then you will be given the wisdom of what that verse means. But it also explains very precisely that there's not a set way. Some people listen to music, some people take walks, some people do yoga, some people go out and look at the stars. Whatever it takes to just empty your mind. There's no really right or wrong way to do this. It's just a process of emptying your mind of everything but God.
Well, I think when you say emptying your mind, that's one form of meditation. When you meditate on the Baha'i writings, you're not really emptying your mind, but what you're doing is you're clearing your mind.
Right, you're clearing your mind
so
of
that
everything
things come through.
Precisely. You're clearing your mind of everything else. And that's easier said than done.
I know.
Because you can say, okay, just meditate on this one line or this one verse.
Yeah.
Well, how often do we sit there trying to concentrate on one line or one verse and 15 things? Well, I got to do this, I got to do that. So it takes a lot of practice, I think. It does for me anyway.
Yeah, me too. I'm constantly fighting that battle. Now, the Baha'is have a lot of teachings or a lot of writings about dreams. How do those fit in with what is currently popular among dream scientists, or theoretical dreamers, as you would call them?
Well, actually, I'll read you a few of the quotes from some of the more popular ones. This is from Carl Jung, and he died in 1960. And of course, books are written on this, but I'll just give you one of the quotes that he has about dreams, and you can decide for yourself, or the listeners can decide for themselves how this fits in with the Baha'i writings. I think it fits in quite nicely.
Okay.
The dream is the small hidden door in the deepest and most intimate sanctum of the soul, which opens into the primeval cosmic light. In dreams we pass into the deeper and more universal truth and more eternal man, who still stands in the dusk of original night, in which he himself was still the whole, and the whole was in him, bright, undifferentiated, pure nature, free from the shackles of ego.
So the dreamer becomes a pure soul.
I think so. That's the purpose.
And is detached from the world, which goes along with the Baha'i teachings.
Right. I think it does. I think it coincides perfectly.
Yeah.
And this is from the Gestalt therapy, which Fritz Perl began. And this is a quote from him, and it says, "The dream is an existential message, excuse me. It is a message of yourself to yourself. Every part, every situation in the dream, every aspect of it is a part of the dreamer, but a part that to some extent is disowned and projected onto others. if we want to own these parts of ourselves again, we have to use special techniques by which we can re-assimilate those experiences. And typically in a dream, you may have 4 or 5 people in your dream, and they're all aspects of yourself. And
according to Fritz Perls.
Well, actually, according to all the dream experts, they pretty much say every person in your dream is an aspect of yourself. So if you're like it or not, you know, actually the people that we come, the people we come across in life too, are people we need to come across in life.
Right.
I mean, that's true on the physical plane also. They're people that we need to be dealing with, and once we've dealt with them, then we go on to other types of people, right?
Right.
Like it or not, and
Right.
it's so it's true in the world of dreams too. So. So the best way to interpret your dream from every dream expert's perspective is to take every person in your dream and see how that's an aspect of you.
Yeah, I don't like to admit it, but I certainly think it's a very important aspect of becoming a whole person, to know that every part of human reality or every part of human experience is something that is within me.
Yes.
That I can relate to that, you know,
And
good
learn something
and
from it.
bad.
That's right.
Good and bad. So it's not easy to accept that, but
And that's why sometimes people don't like to pay attention to their dreams, and they throw them out because they say, you know, this is a bunch of baloney, you know, I'm not paying any attention to
Right.
it. But the more we feel that way often, the more we need to pay attention. So often when people don't want to pay attention, they tend to forget their dreams.
yeah.
So, which means they probably need to pay more attention. And this is a quote from Edward Casey, who's probably America's most famous clairvoyant. And some people agree with him and some don't, but this is a quote from him. And according to Edward Casey, sleep is that period when the soul takes stock of what it has acted upon, from one rest period to another, drawing comparisons, as it were, that make for harmony, peace, joy, love, long-suffering, patience, brotherly love, and kindness, all fruits of the Spirit.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, I went to an Edward Casey workshop over at the coast for a week, and as most people probably know, he was able to go into a trance and to solve medical problems that doctors couldn't solve in patients. But he had no ability to do this unless he was living in a spiritual state. There were times in his life when he kind of got out of living the life according to a Christian minister, and he was not able to do this anymore. So this also goes along with the Baha'i writings in the sense that we need to purify ourselves in order to have dreams. Because that was very true in Edward Casey's life. I didn't realize that till I'd gone to that workshop. So it was a direct connection to how he was living his life. It worked when he was living his life well, and it didn't work at all when he was kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. It is.
And it does agree with our holy writings.
Yes. Definitely.
And this is from Joseph Campbell, and he's probably well known by most people. He's written a lot of books, and his most famous is A Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Yes.
That's probably his best known. In this classic story, he traces the story of the hero's journey and transformation through virtually all the mythologies of the world, revealing the one archetypal hero in them all. And of course, there's 7 stages, interestingly enough. The notion of a cosmic law which all existence serves and to which man himself must bend has long since passed the preliminary mystical stages represented in the old astrology and is now simply accepted in mechanical terms as a matter of course. He goes on to say, it is not society that is to guide and save the creative hero, but precisely the reverse. And so every one of us shares the supreme ordeal, carries the cross of the Redeemer, not in the bright moment of his tribe's victories, but in the silence of his personal despair. Wherever dreams come from, the fact remains that people do have dreams in which they feel the experience or glimpse of ultimate reality, and these experiences have led to their enhancement or renaissance in their lives. The experience of unity and totality in some of these dreams are valued among the most beautiful and important of any life experiences to those who have them.
So sometimes we have visions in our dreams of how the world could be, and excuse me, and that becomes the vision that we work towards in our lives.
And there's some incredible stories written in dream books about dreams people have had that have changed the world, like I mentioned earlier. So, and 70% of our dreams are precognitive dreams. They tell of the future. So,
70%?
70%.
Where do you get that number from?
Actually, it's a statistic that came out in the Stanford labs back in the 1960s when they were tapping into people's dreams and then waking them up to see what they were dreaming. And they deducted from that 70% of the dreams tell of the future.
So the people had dreams that actually came true.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Futuristic dreams.
Yeah, and it is interesting to me too that in the 60s there was a real interest in dreaming, and there was a lot of study, and it seems to have become not so popular today, dreaming.
It's becoming a little more popular, but not as much as it would be. We'd like it to be, as far as I'm concerned. But of course, when I go to all these workshops and stuff, everybody's into their dreams. So there are a lot of people out there that are interested. But you kind of stick together, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it hasn't been a popular. It's been associated, dreaming has been associated in the past with people who are kind of on the fringe, who are not really reliable. And I think that is really a mistake on our part. But part of that is in our culture, that dreams become more respectable, more acceptable, as forms of guidance, as forms of learning. And so it's just interesting that study came out of the 60s about the precognitive dreams. Yeah, that we need to develop that more.
I think we are. I think it's coming very slowly, but I know back in 1998, Good Morning America for 5 days in a row had dream experts on and spent maybe 5 or 10 minutes each day. But I thought, well, that's progress. We're getting there. Good Morning America had them on for 5 days in a row. This country's 5 probably more popular dream experts. And so that was a step in the right direction. And there have been maybe 2 or 3 shows where there's an hour program or 2 hours programs on dreams on the major networks. So not a lot, but we're progressing a little.
Yeah, that's great. You have some, what else do you have there?
Well, I guess the question is, why bother to pay attention to our dreams? If dreams help us change ourselves, can that make a difference? Or are we just changing ourselves?
Yes. Can they be used to change ourselves?
I think they can. I think that's the main way to change ourselves, because we're getting truth from our dreams, whether we like it or not. We're not analyzing ourselves. We're tapping into something that's more divine and more a deeper state of consciousness. So the Chinese have a proverb that says, if there's right in the soul, there will be beauty in the person. If there's beauty in the person, there will be harmony in the home. If there's harmony in the home, there will be order in the nation. If there's order in the nation, there will be peace in the world. And I think every major religious tradition goes back to the fact that we have to change ourselves in order to change the world. And one of the best ways to do that is to tap into our dreams and get the truth about ourselves, the truth about our spiritual selves. So not our physical being, but our spiritual selves.
Right.
And there is a difference.
Right. So we have to become channels, really.
Yes, and that's the purpose.
Yeah, for the Spirit to flow through us into the world. And in doing that, we can make the world a better place. And while making ourselves a better place.
Right.
We better people.
I think so. We always try to do something huge and that make a difference, and I think we just have to change ourselves. Every major religious tradition has told us that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, I just want to go back to the meditation and how to use that. How would you use that in going through this process of using your dreams?
Well, for me personally, I try to spend a half an hour to an hour each night before I go to sleep, just kind of emptying myself out of of the day's events. And I do that through listening to music or listening to tapes or reading the Baha'i writings or whatever. That's different for different people, but I would suggest that everybody at least spend a half an hour before they go to bed, just to, instead of watching television, turning it off and going to bed, but spend some time on just kind of detaching themselves from the day's events, and then often asking a question that you want an answer to before you go to sleep, and literally sleeping on that question. You can write the question down, preferably not in a paragraph, but in one sentence, and just think about that as you go to sleep, and keep doing that until you get an answer. Sometimes you get an answer right away, sometimes it takes weeks, but you will get an answer.
So if you stay focused on it,
You've got to stay
every
focused.
night, you keep asking until you receive.
Right. Look at Eli Howe, look at Thomas Edison.
Yeah.
They're good examples that we've used before on people that have done this.
In dreaming, what would you say would be your most dramatic dream that you've ever had?
Well,
Do you have one, or
I've had a lot of
choose
wonderful dreams, but I could share one that was a third type of dream with you.
okay?
It came to me in a tablet like the Ten Commandments, and it was written in stone. And as I was
Literally in your
literally as
dream?
I was in the dream, it was written in stone like the Ten Commandments.
Wow.
And behind it was lightning, which means in the dream world to pay attention to this. And actually, I'd been going through a time where I was trying to solve someone else's problems for them, you know, trying to help them with their problem and wanting to make a difference in their life. And I'm sure I had this dream to set me straight.
Yes.
And the dream said, and this is not reality. It was in 5 phases, 5 sentences. Everything is a symbol. You need not carry the burdens of others. Everything is just as it should be, and everything is God's will.
My goodness.
And you know, I try every day to live that out. Those 5 commandments that I got on that tablet, because if I could, you know, what a wonderful life it would be, because everything is as it should be. Whatever problems we're going through are to teach us to grow spiritually. Whatever problems anyone else is going through, which the tablets were trying to tell me, is what they need to go through.
So you were trying to save
I was
somebody.
trying to help this person
Yeah.
not have to go through a difficult time.
Yeah.
And the tablet was saying to me, and that was the middle part, was you need not carry the burdens of others, was saying it's as it should be. You know, leave it alone. And I'd had probably half a dozen dreams prior to that telling me this, that came in signs and symbols. But since I wasn't getting it, it came in a stone tablet with lightning behind it. So some good message gets through to us one way or another, and this time it was a stone tablet with lightning behind it.
You're a
And
pretty
I
powerful
could not-
dreamer.
I could not misinterpret this.
Yeah.
And I mean, the lightning was flashing, you know, it was really incredible. So it was pretty powerful.
Wow.
And that dream has so much wisdom, I mean, every day of my life. I mean, if I could just abide by that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So you really have, in your life, your dreams have guided you, and you have changed. You've done things differently because of your dreams. You feel like that has been beneficial to you? It's helped your spiritual growth?
I don't think I could personally, after having done it since 1990, would do very well without it. I really do use it as guidance every day as far as what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. And maybe it's not even about right and wrong, it's about balancing my life to find the middle ground. If I'm off balance, my dreams let me know that. If I'm going too far one way or the other, you know. If I'm feeling pretty good about myself, my dreams may come and say, yeah, ha ha, you know, you're not so great. Or if I'm kind of feeling down on myself, my dreams will come and say, you know, you're doing okay, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of to get you into the middle ground, you know, where, you know.
A balance.
The balance. And I think they're incredible. So I encourage everyone to do this. And I think if you don't do it, you're losing out on a huge portion of your life. That the wisdom that God has given us is a huge portion here that you're not tapping into.
Yeah.
If you don't pay attention to your dreams. But it's up to each person. Everyone has the capacity. Every person that has ever lived has this capacity, and then it's just a matter of wanting to do it.
Yeah, it's a function of the soul.
It is.
And so as a human beings, we all have souls, and we all can do this. And dreaming, I was just thinking that it, when we go to sleep, basically our conscious minds has all kinds of walls and preconceptions and prejudices, but when we are asleep, those kind of fall away.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our dreams, we are enabled to see things, to hear things that are, that we wouldn't normally consciously be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is that form of guidance that is so powerful for us.
Mm-hmm.
We've got about 3 minutes left, and I'm wondering if you'd like to summarize.
Yes, I'd like to just tell you basically what dreams are about, are to help us to love unconditionally every person on the face of the earth. And
You think that's the primary goal
I
of
think
dreams?
that that's been the primary message of every messenger of God, is unconditional love. I mean, you know, if you take the golden rule of every religion,
Mm-hmm.
it talks about loving our neighbor as ourselves. And in the Baha'i writings, it says to love our neighbors more than ourselves. And I think our dreams are telling us how we're not being loving. If, you know, if we're off balance and we're being prejudiced in some way or not, the
Mhm.
dreams will let us know that in a very powerful way, usually a symbolic way, and if not a symbolic way, like my dream,
Yeah.
which was a stone tablet.
Yeah.
So knowing that, I went to the Baha'i writings to see how I might be able to love unconditionally, because that's not an easy, it's, you know, we all understand that, but to do it is
Yeah.
not so easy. So I found this from the writings of Abdu'l-Baha in Promulgation of Universal Peace, and I'd like to end with this and share it with you.
Okay.
And he tells us how we can love unconditionally, every person. And he divides us into 3 categories, and it's under personal development. And he says, under ignorance, among the sons of men, some souls are suffering through ignorance. Let us hasten to teach them. The second category is immaturity. Others are like children needing care and education until they are grown. An infant must not be treated with disdain simply because it is an infant. Our responsibility is to train, educate, and develop it in order that it may advance toward maturity. So just because we're 70 does not mean we're mature necessarily,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So he brings that up, the fact that maturity doesn't necessarily have to do with age, and we need to treat people accordingly. And the third part is sickness. And some are sick. To these we must carry divine healing. When we find a person fallen into the depths of misery or sin, we must be kind to him. Take him by the hand, help him regain his footing, his strength. We must guide him with love and tenderness. Treat him as a friend and not as an enemy. We must not detest him who is ailing, neither shun him, nor scorn, nor curse him, but care for him with the utmost kindness and tenderness. And when I read this, I thought I could do that.
Yes.
I can do that. If I look at those categories,
Certainly
I
is
can love unconditionally.
compassionate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not, my dreams will let me know I'm not. so I'm
That's
covered.
Great. That's great. Barbara, thank you very much for joining us on this show about dreams. It's been very informative. And I want to thank our audience for joining us for Reflections of Unity from the writings of Baha'u'llah. We'll see you next time.
Dreams give me wings to fly high above the rain, where storms just pass me by.